I think the publication of my book of poems was as much a surprise to me as it is to all of you, the family and friends who have come here to cheer me on. But the evidence of the publication is more than virtual. There are books floating around here. It was also made available by Amazon, who refers to the book. Can you hear me? Refers to the book as reflections on aging and sexuality. My deep apology for the reflections on sexuality. It's merely locker room gossip. The question is why I waited so long to start, or why I started at all. I have no answer. But these poems are a kind of coda to life, a final spurt of energy to expel and to express thoughts that have been festering inside for many years. A kind of a coda, the Italian word for tail. In this case, I think the tail is wagging the dog. Two poets who have a particularly strong influence on me. One, Stanley Kunitz, because he wrote poetry and took care of his garden in Provincetown until he was 100. The other, Robert Lowell, very directly influenced me, particularly the so-called confessional poems, the poems of the first person, the I. The title poem, my title poem of A Sunday in Purgatory is of that category, and I'll read it. A Sunday in Purgatory. A voluntary inmate immured in a last resort for seniors, there are constant reminders that the reaper is lurking around the corner. I am at home, very much at home, here at Ingleside, Rock Creek, distant 3 miles from my caring daughter. At Ingleside, a faith-based community for vintage Presbyterians, I am an old Jew, but that's another story. I'm not complaining with so much I want to do, doing it at my pace, slowly. Anticipation of death is just like looking for a new job. Then suddenly, on a Sunday, talking recklessly while eating brunch, a grisly piece of meat lodged in my throat. I struggled for breath, too annoyed to be scared. Someone pounds my back to no avail. Out of nowhere, an alert, pint-sized waiter performs the Heimlich maneuver. I don't believe it will work. It does. Uncorked, I'm freed. Looking up, I see the concerned visage and reverse collar of a retired Navy chaplain, pinch-hitting as God's messenger for the day. Had he come to perform the last rites, to ease my passage from this world to the hereafter? Don't jump to dark conclusions. In World War II, on active duty, he learned the Heimlich as well as the Himmlisch. Knowing it is best administered to a standing victim, he rushed to intervene. On this day, I was twice blessed with the kindness of strangers. Now there And some poems which are sort of more objective and which some of which have something to do with my privileged life as a close brush with historic moments. This poem is called A Terrific Headache. Anna brought Lucy to the White House when Eleanor was on the road. The father and daughter conspiracy was a family secret. Others in the know were committed to silence. My parents knew, they never told me. My father was visiting the president for dinner at Warm Springs before the Last Supper. He steadied the trembling hand of his longtime boss and friend as he mixed bourbon old-fashioned cocktails and nibbled caviar, a gift from the Soviet ambassador. 4 ladies were his guests. Cousin Laura Dolino with her dog. She had never married. Her gray, deeply blued coiffure sported a shaved widow's peak. Daisy Suckley, Hyde Park neighbor, and more gossips would have it. And then there was Lucy Mercer Rutherford, slipped over from her Aiken estate with artist Madame Schumertov. Lucy had commissioned a private portrait of her beloved. The next afternoon, Laura called Eleanor at the White House. Franklin had fainted and was carried to his bed. She was not to be alarmed. To prevent rumors from flying, she kept her date to speak to the ladies at the Sulgrave Club. Steve Early, he asked me to come home at once. I did not even ask why. I knew in my heart of hearts what had happened. That night, Laura told Eleanor, in her absence, Lucy had come for dinner at the White House on several occasions, with Eleanor's daughter Anna serving as hostess. Eleanor's bitterness and sadness remained private. He might have been happier with a wife who was completely uncritical, she wrote. He had to find in some other people. I was one of those who served his purposes. On that final day in the little White House in Warm Springs, insulated from the cries of war, the commander-in-chief, posing in his favorite Navy cape, put his hand to his temple. His last words, "I have a terrific headache." And then this last one, some of my poems are just having a little fun with serious matters, called Wow. At 99, I can't say I have had everything I expected out of life, but I've had about all I want. These days, my family and good friends are relentless cheerleaders. Their cheese I can do without. They look at me and say, "Wow." I yell back, "Ow." Thank you.
The book is for sale in the kitchen if anybody is interested.
Lucinda wants to say something.
Thank you.